Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my fellow crypto nerds. My name is Monty Allen, and I am your crypto nerd. And this is yesterday's Algorand news, because you're a day late and an algo short. If you're on Twitter, do hashtag algonews. If you want to be propped out, if you want me to find the news, if you want me to find you on Twitter, hashtag algonews, and I will come find you. If you see something that's newsworthy, let me know. All right, I actually tried to record this video early this morning, and I goofed up the sound. You could hear Silvio McCallie in the background because I accidentally had like a YouTube layered sound like going on in the background. I didn't hear it on the initial pass through, but now I'm redoing this at my time. It's 10:40 at night. I'm doing yesterday's news a day and a half later. I'm going to do another one of these in about 8 hours actually to cover all of today's stuff. But let's not forget, I don't want to miss out on everything. That was yesterday's news, so let's dive into it. There was a lot of chatter yesterday about the Vesta Equity deal. And it was the Algorand Foundation. They posted something that said, hey, we've given a grant to Vesta Equity. But it wasn't the first time that we had seen or heard of Vesta Equity. So Vesta Equity, actually, they had an agreement, I think back in March. There was an announcement in April. But at that point in time, it was just wham, bam, one announcement on top of another. And there was just a lot of good things happening. In fact, you've seen those charts that kind of outline all of our partners. Well, it grew tons during that time frame, and this Vesta Equity just sort of it was a blip. It was there for a couple of days, and then there were so many other announcements we didn't really hear from them again. Well, they resurfaced today. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, need to get reminded of what Vesta Equity does. Vesta Equity is looking to eliminate the mortgage process from taking cash out of your house, from equity extraction. They want to remove, your traditional lender, maybe possibly a title company, maybe the appraiser, maybe modify. We don't have the same agreements. Maybe those home inspectors, I might not need them. And all of the people who make money along the way when a house gets a mortgage on it. We're talking about, the wire transfer that goes from one bank to another bank. And let's not pretend that, some of these lenders, they lend out $1 billion a month or $10 billion a month. They don't have that money in their back pocket. They're getting that from, the government or other investors, and they give it to, the lender to send out. It goes out to the title company. The title company acts like the money police. They send it out to distribute to a whole bunch of people, and everybody along the way has their hand out. What Vesta Equity wants to do is eliminate all of those middlemen, all of those middle people who've got their hands out, and just connect the homeowner with the investor. Now, this is a little unique. It says peer-to-peer, but it's not peer-to-peer like for you and I yet. You still have to be a qualified investor. I think you have to make more than $200,000 a year to be on the qualified investor list, but this is getting pretty darn close. And I think that those qualified investors, there's going to be a marketplace after the initial investors there where maybe they can resell these to you and I, to the layperson. It's really interesting, and I'm very, very involved in the finance world, in the mortgage world, and real estate in my day job, so I couldn't do this video earlier in the day. And so this particularly hits home for me. And Algorand is primed. I did a video on this back in March to take over the real estate market and really make a big difference. So let's take a look at Vesta Equity just a little bit more. And props out to Devolution at Devolution 2000. A lot of folks put this video out there or some information, but I saw Devolution first. So he gets the prop out. So take a look. And he didn't even do hashtag algo news. Take a look at that. I want you to do hashtag algo news, and it's much easier for me to find you. But this is a good little synopsis of what the Vesta Equity wants to do. They want to eliminate all of those middle people. And gosh, have you tried to get a mortgage? For those of you who have done it, you got to give everything but like a blood sample to get a mortgage these days. It is absolutely crazy. And think about this, the FICO system. You've got to have a FICO score in the U.S. You got to have a credit score. We take a snapshot of your finances today, and we pretend to ourselves that it has anything to do with what your financial capability, your ability to repay that loan in 28, 29, 30 years, because it's a 30-year loan. You cannot tell me that that has anything to do with my ability to repay. What Vesta Equity has done is taking that massive amount of interest that is paid out over 30 years. Most people borrow, let's say they borrow $100,000, they end up paying back $215,000. No wonder we got a housing bubble, because people want to get their money back. The interest paid on this is ridiculous. So if they give just a one-time transaction, and then there's a hard limit to what that dollar amount is. They charge they get their money up front. They charge for the service, essentially. It seems like it's a lien. And these are based off of NFTs, by the way, which makes it even more interesting, because we've been talking about NFTs for the last month and a half, right? Ever since they kind of hit the ground running, NFTs are essentially quasi-deeds. They just prove ownership. So let's say I want to give you 20% equity of my house. You want to own 20% of my house? Sweet. Here you go. No fuss, no muss. I don't have to hit monthly payments. I don't have the same kind of credit qualifications, because the collateral itself is the application, right? I sold you a piece of my property. And so now we have shares in your property. We've tokenized your property. You still get to live there, but when you sell eventually, or maybe you want to refinance eventually and buy that portion of it back. I mean, there's not a lot of terms here that needs to get figured out, but you get to live in your house. You get the cash for what? I don't know, home improvements. Maybe you want to start your own business. Maybe you've got a sick relative. Maybe you've got somebody who needs to go to college. Maybe you want to retire. Maybe you want to go on vacation. I don't know what you want to do, but that's your equity, and you haven't been able to tap into it. These mortgages have all kinds of crazy rules. You got to have like 20% equity. You got to leave it in there in most cases. What if Vesta Equity says, nah, you only got to leave 5% equity? Or maybe they don't care about that, because they just want part of the collateral. They're not so worried about the fluctuations of the property value up and down, because they have a certain percentage of the collateral. So it is an interesting, very, very interesting space to get into. And there's lots of room to grow. The mortgage market, the equity market, equity extraction is estimated in the trillions of dollars just in the U.S. Vesta, by the way, looks to be based out of Canada. So I think they're starting off in California. But there's equity all over. If it works here in the U.S., who's to say they couldn't take this worldwide? There is room to run with this. And it's all being run on the Algorand blockchain. So that partnership enables us to keep your home equity, that transaction, safe and secure. Those NFTs are never going to fork. There's no forking around on the Algorand blockchain. That NFT that is your deed securely states that, hey, there's never going to be any doubt about who owns this NFT. And maybe there's a market for that later on afterwards. So that is just a huge amount of growth that is available to Algorand. And let's take a look at Michael Carpentier, I'm not sure. So Michael here, he is the senior executive. He might be the CEO, founder of Vesta Equity. Now, I found him on LinkedIn. You know how I like to stalk people on LinkedIn. So this lists him as being in the LA metropolitan area, but every other social media outlet that I found him was up in Canada. And you can see that Vesta is actually based out of Toronto, and all of his other businesses were based out of Toronto there as well. So I'm not sure where he's at. I'm not sure why it matters. If you're watching Michael, I hope you're enjoying life wherever you're at right now. So you're a sales and marketing guy, though. So Michael's in sales and marketing. He doesn't have a huge history in the mortgage or the lending world per se. So I think it's an interesting play. I wonder how he got into this. I wonder if he's just a big, real estate investor. It seems like he's done quite well for himself. CEO, VP, president. These are the types of titles he's held for the last, 21 years and even further. I couldn't scroll down further on my LinkedIn screenshot there. So maybe he's got a huge portfolio. Maybe he had a hard time qualifying for a mortgage and was like, this is BS. Maybe I need to figure out another way to take equity extraction, because this is my house. I earned this. I paid down the mortgage. I made the smart investment. This is my equity. And how do I tap into it? Why is the bank telling me that I can't get my own equity out of my own house? And so maybe I don't use a debt tool. Maybe I use an investment tool, which has a totally different set of parameters. It's kind of like the Wild Wild West between you, me, and the fence post, right? The way that you take equity out from this standpoint has very little regulations compared to the way that a mortgage in the United States is regulated. it's night and day. So you don't have the same kind of qualifications or hoops that you have to jump through as far as compliance stuff goes. There's a couple of other folks doing this type of thing right now. I did a little research. There's 2 or 3 other folks. One is poised to take off right now. They're not doing it necessarily with the blockchain, but there's a couple of other folks doing this sort of equity investment, but they seem to be predatory. And so they find people who are in bad situations. Maybe they're going to foreclose. Maybe they're older. They seem to be preying on some lower socioeconomic classes and poaching some of their equity, and maybe like lowballing the value so that their equity position is higher. Now, from what I can tell, Vesta Equity seems to be on the up and up. Their investors don't want to dabble in, the with the riffraff. They don't want to be associated with subprime in the U.S. or with doing the wrong thing. They seem to be giving a fair market value and giving something on the blockchain. It's all secure. It's all above board. Seems like they're going to have some opportunity to buy back. And it seems like this is the kind of thing that could go mainstream. And we need a sales and marketing guy to get this in front of everyone. So he's gotten a little bit of PR right now. So obviously I'm talking about him. He's not paying me. So far, so good. What he's doing has worked. He's gotten a little bit of publicity and he's gotten some money. He's getting some grants. So I think he can get this thing off the ground and find some folks like me who've got history in that lending world, who are willing to make a paradigm shift and find folks who are willing to adapt and adopt this different technique. And I think that this is huge. So from Algorand's standpoint, if ALGO could be the blockchain that all of these transactions take place on, could you imagine the value of all of those NFTs being transferred? Like the ALGO and the exposure that we would get to the public if something like this were to go mainstream would be fantastic, and everybody would benefit from that. All of the other projects would benefit from that. ALGO would get its due recognition for being safe, secure, reliable, inexpensive, easy to transfer these NFTs, easy to track, easy to keep track of, easy to keep secure. And hey, if somebody's got their equity of their house tied up in an NFT, you want it to be on ALGO, don't you? So there you have it. I'll get off my soapbox about the real estate market and the Algorand blockchain and this really interesting company, Vesta Equity. Watch them. See who else gives them money. Who else is going to buy into this idea? Because it should be one hell of a ride. So there you have it. You're a day late and an algo short. Maybe a day and a half late and an algo short today. But my name is Monty Allen, and I am your crypto nerd. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned in about 8 hours when I come up with today's news.